I'm Karen Arbuckle and I'm from Northern Ireland Community Energy, which is a community benefit society based on a cooperative model. We are a solar PV company. We are owned by 100 members, 100 local members from Northern Ireland and a few from the UK, and we have one in Germany as well. And those members joined us in creating a community benefit society that put solar PV panels on 18 community buildings in Northern Ireland free of charge. From those solar PV panels, we generate energy, which we put back into the grid, and the community buildings use for their own purposes. We charge them a small fee of 4 pence per unit that they use. I think the current electricity prices are about 15, 16 pence. So that's a huge saving for those organisations. And then what we sell back to the grid that they don't use, we get a small fee for. So the profits that we have after our expenses are rolled over into a community fund. And that community fund is going to be used for further energy efficiency or energy technology, renewable technology projects. Renewable energy has always been an interest of mine. I'm married to a dairy farmer. We live outside Ballymena, and we wanted to put a wind turbine on our farm probably about 9-10 years ago now. And when we started to investigate that, the issue obviously was finance, and it's a huge amount of money to put a wind turbine up. We approached the banks and they weren't interested because they considered it to be too risky. So we approached some people in Dara at that time, and there wasn't really an awful lot of information about renewable energy projects in Northern Ireland. It hadn't really taken off. So we didn't get the advice that we needed and we couldn't do anything. And then out of the blue one day, I got a telephone call from a guy who was interested in setting up a renewable energy co-op called Drumlin Wind Energy. And he wanted to put a turbine on our farm and we would become part of the co-op. So we became interested in that, and it really went from there, and that was back in 2012. So I have a 250 kilowatt turbine on the farm. The farm gets an income from the rental of the land that the turbine sits in. We're also members of the co-op. We invested in the shares, and those shares over the 20-year period of the project on average will give us a 12 to 13% return on our investment. So that was my first experience of renewable energy cooperatives. And from that, we went on a ResCoop tour to Germany, to a place called Freiburg and Vauban. And they have energy villages. And we saw numerous renewable energy technologies that were owned by the community, from hydro, biogas, district heating. It was wonderful just to see what could be achieved by so many different communities. And we came back very enthused by that. And at the time, there was still government incentives for renewable technologies. And that's what triggered the idea then for the solar PV. A lot of people in Northern Ireland think that solar PV isn't viable because we don't have the biggest lot of sunshine. But in fact, there is a significant amount to give you a payback. So we set up then Northern Ireland Community Energy with a view to helping those who I suppose are least considered to be able to help themselves, which were particular communities with specific needs. So we have Chinese Welfare Association, we have Women's Aid, we have a great organisation up in Derry, the Nerve Centre. We have the YMCA up in Derry. So there's a number of organisations that are getting a benefit from our project. Initially, I wouldn't say I did have the knowledge. My background is actually health service. I'm an HR professional. And I had just left work after my third child whenever we were approached for the Drumlin Wind Energy Co-op. And I had been asked to help really to do the promotion of Drumlin, to get shareholders to invest. So it was really through that work with Drumlin that I got an understanding again about cooperatives. I have been in a cooperative all my life. Through the farm, we're in a dairy co-op. But we had lost the ethos of the community aspect of co-ops because those dairy co-ops are so big now. They're more or less run as a big company, like a private company, and shareholders don't tend to get involved. So this was taking me right back again to learning how cooperatives actually work and how the community can actually become involved and get a benefit from that involvement. And particularly the ResCoop trip to Germany, that showed, just how much that we're missing here by because we've lost that community aspect of owning and running a business. Not particularly, because we are totally funded by our members. We don't have funding from anywhere else. Although, well, in terms of the Drumlin Co-op, we did get some funding actually from USIT, and that was just to help us with running costs so that we would have cash in hand.
What was USIT?
Is the Ulster Community Investment Trust. They help community projects of various types, and we had just contacted them to get a pot of money that we would hold as cash in hand. But in terms of the Community Benefit Society, we're totally funded by the members, and that money is managed by the board. The model, I would say, is probably very prudent, and we always retain a certain amount of money in the bank to take account of any unforeseen circumstances. So we haven't had to rely on any other funders. Both both organisations rely very heavily on those that have expertise in renewable energy technologies. We have people specifically qualified as electrical engineers, which has been crucial in the initial stages of both projects. But the others are very much community focused people. They have been involved in community development and cooperative development for a long number of years. And I think that's probably the most or the biggest aspect that we've relied on, because in Northern Ireland, we've been a bit hesitant about community projects. Community projects are sometimes seen as, let me say, organisations that are maybe funded by immoral gains. So it's trying to re-educate people that, actually there are, bona fide companies established that are different from those that they may have been familiar with in the past. Plus, at the time when we were setting this up, one of the biggest obstacles was the financial crisis. We were just coming in at the end of that, and a very big society, the Presbyterian Mutual Society, had gone down and taken a lot of the community's money with it. So it was trying to gain people's trust again that what we were doing was FCA approved and there was no risk to their investment with us. So I think of all of the things, that was probably the biggest hurdle, getting people's trust. But once we had one project, which was the wind one, the solar one came along much easier, and actually we have a bigger percentage of Northern Ireland members in that project than we managed to achieve in the wind. Well, as of today, I'm waiting for news from the National Lottery. We've applied for money under the Climate Action Fund because we would like to start a new project under the solar. One of the things we've discovered is people's awareness and education on energy and energy efficiency is not good. We don't understand where our energy comes from. We don't understand the infrastructure of energy in Northern Ireland. And one of the things we would like to do is set up a programme is to educate and help people make the most of energy efficiencies in their buildings. And we're going to do that through our community groups that we're already in partnership with, and do the education through those communities to filter it out. And hopefully that will meet those needs of those that are currently in fuel poverty. And that's our ultimate aim, is to try and reduce fuel poverty. I think, again, we're volunteers on the board. We don't take any pay for what we do. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think if I was doing it again, I would build in some small tokenism of pay for those people, because we rely very heavily on people's enthusiasm and time. And it does take a lot of time and effort to bring the community with you. It's not just, you can't just go out and speak to one person and hope that it spreads. It doesn't work like that. Particularly in Northern Ireland, we like to talk to people face to face. That's how we gain trust. And that takes a fair amount of legwork. And it means going out to different parts of the province. You can't just go to Belfast or go up to Derry. You need to go all around the country to explain what it is you're doing. We had tried to do it through social media, through a website, but at the end of the day, it took that one-to-one contact to make the real difference. And that still, I think, is the case. We haven't turned the curve yet in terms of multimedia and the YouTube generation, the social media generation, hasn't caught on yet. Absolutely. Those that are joining, you need to understand that it's not just a couple of hours of their time, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. It's a bit more than that. To give the organisation the total benefit of your expertise, you need to be prepared to give a wee bit more time. And I think if we had maybe built in slightly more recognition for that time, we would find it easier to get board members. It is very difficult in our organisations as they stand at the moment to get people to give you their time and to join you. Because there are loads of people out there in the community that have a wealth of experience, and they tend to put themselves down and don't be forthcoming. And you find when you do run events and they come along, that really those are the people that you should have on your organisation to help you run it. And it's to try and encourage those people to get involved. I think it's just the nature of people in Northern Ireland. I go to conferences and things over in England, and they, they're showcasing their organisations, and you think, well, we're already doing that here in Northern Ireland. We've been doing that, but we don't shout about it, and that's the difference. And I think we need to look and pat ourselves on the back as to what we are doing, because we have some fantastic community organisations that are doing a lot of really good work, but it's just not being publicised.